welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the SugarCube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to talk about another free resource for getting artwork for your games. This particular resource is mostly of use for people who want to make fantasy or historical themed games. And I know that the previous resource that I talked about was also mainly for fantasy games, so I've sort of been neglecting people who want to make games in other genres, and I'm sorry about that. I do have plans to talk about resources that will be more broadly useful, but today I'm talking about one that's mostly for, as I say, fantasy or historical. The name of the site is artvee.com, artvee.com. I will put a link to it in the description of this video. And it is a collection of pieces of visual art that have fallen into the public domain. So what does that mean? Well, after a certain period of time, copyrights and trademarks and other forms of intellectual property rights over a piece of art expire and it becomes free for anyone to use. Broadly speaking, bear in mind that you shouldn't get legal advice from YouTube videos, and you certainly shouldn't get legal advice from this YouTube video, because I'm not a lawyer and I'm not capable of giving legal advice. But broadly speaking, if a piece of visual art was published before January the 1st, 1931, or the creator of that art has been dead for 70 years, or both, then that piece of art will be in the public domain, meaning that it's free for you to use and free for these people to put high quality versions on their website for you to download. So it's very straightforward to use. You can do a general keyword like, for example, Viking. Let's try that. Oh my goodness, sorry. There we go. Okay. And you get some results that might be useful, particularly pictures of ships. Let's say you like this picture. You can download the standard size for free. That's 1800 by 748 pixels, and that will be big enough for most people. If you wanted to pay, you could get access to the higher size, 14,712 by 6,112 pixels. But as I say, this should be good enough for most. If you find the artist interesting, you could click on that, for example. So I'd like to spend the rest of this video talking about a couple of artists that I have found particularly useful. And let's start with Edmund Dulac. He did a lot of illustrations for fairy tales, the Arabian Nights in particular. And if you want a sort of fairy tale fantasy vibe for your illustrations, he's a good one to look at. And once again, 1431 by 1800, so a similar size. You can download that for free or pay to get an even bigger size. Another artist that I would like to talk about is Aubrey Beardsley, another person from the Victorian age. He tended to do sort of black and white line drawings. He illustrated King Arthur. And I think you can see pretty easily how these would be useful for a fantasy themed picture. You'd probably, in this particular case, you'd probably want to get rid of this thing saying Merlin in Photoshop or a similar application. But certainly, that could be a hermit or a druid or a lunatic in the woods or an outlaw or something like that. Anyway, that is about all we have time for. If there's enough interest, I'll talk about some other artists that might be useful sources for art, but I will leave it there for now. I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.